Gotcha, I'm sorry. So the first, well, we have a lot of things on the agenda, so. I'm trying to see who's here in what order. So we have the second reading on the amendment to the zoning ordinance for conditional rezoning. I know Charlotte and Megan are here. Is there any questions on that second reading? The conditional rezoning? Megan, may I ask a few questions?
Absolutely. Megan Nesman, Carlo Wortman Associates. How can I help you?
I was just, for processes, the next step would be to put, does it go on our zoning ordinance
Yeah, so,
as a separate?
yeah, so it would be added to the zoning ordinance as an amendment. It would go through Muni Code and be posted. But your action tonight would be to approve the zoning ordinance amendments
So
as
it goes into-
presented.
Okay. Goes into zoning ordinance 74.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking more of a map, but that's, the E-course road is
Yes,
the map. And
Yes.
the new designated zoning district for
Yes.
E-course road.
yes.
Okay. And then that'll be part of the master plan.
It would be part of the zoning ordinance. Everything before you is part of the zoning ordinance.
Well, that's a zoning map, the E-course road, right?
Yes, so the map, the zoning map would change, and the zoning ordinance, the written part would change as well.
And the master plan would change to that, or no?
The master plan, so your current master plan did anticipate changes to E-course Road, which this would be in line with. Also, you did the placemaking plan that was approved by this body last year. So in terms of planning documentation to back up these zoning ordinance amendments, you have more than enough there, because it's in your current master plan, it's in that placemaking plan, and then it's part of the draft plan that's been before the Planning Commission.
Okay. I was just trying to, in my mind, figure out the next steps.
Yeah,
We're going to need new maps, right?
yes.
Are there any other questions on the conditional rezoning text amendment? Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Under new business, we have the first reading for the adoption of the 28 edition of the International Fire Prevention Code. We update our codes, yeah. Chief?
Yeah, good evening, Madam Supervisor and Board. In an attempt to prepare our department and help the township move forward in our development-ready status, we realized on some of these projects that we had, these building and development projects, that there was a conflict in terms of code enforcement as it relates to the building code, mechanical code, electrical code, and how the effect it has on fire alarm systems. And the fire department was reviewing plans based on the 2012, which we are currently under, International Fire Code. So tonight with the help of the attorneys, we wanted to get this resolution before the board to bring your fire services up to the 2018 IFC, which in essence will help because we have an internal, I don't think he's here yet, Dan, plan reviewer, and this will help him to expedite in reviewing of construction plans for new development in the township.
All right.
So that's what we're here to ask the board to first reading to move this initiative forward so
Great.
that we can be on the same page with the building officials.
Madam Chair.
Questions?
I was just curious, do they come out with a new IFC that's like completely different every year, every fiscal year?
It's on a 3-year cycle.
3 years.
So, yeah.
So we shouldn't expect another update until 21?
21, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We must have, so 15 and 18, and then every 3 years we just?
Yes.
Okay. We must
And-
have missed 15, huh?
Well, in 2012, 2012, I think we went to the 2009, because I think we were on the 2003 when I came, when I started in 2009. So we brought it up to the 2009 standard in 2012. And I think we came back in 15 to come up to the 12.
Gotcha.
So now we're coming up to the 18 and 19.
Mr. Winters, is there any way that we can automatically adopt the current, or do we have to do it every time they come up?
Up though, I think, don't you and Angie and Dan have specific changes that are different than what the?
Yeah, the building official has adopted, the state has adopted for the building code, the Michigan Building Code, the IFC. So that's an automatic renewal. The fire changes, the fire code, excuse me, is a little different and kind of a little like apples and oranges, a little different, because there are some different nuances to the code that has to do with not necessarily construction, but there are something like, example would be like open burning and or fire extinguishers and fire smoke detectors.
So they're not automatic when the state does it?
No.
Like they are for
No, not the
building?
fire code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should be, right?
I would like to see that happen. I think we could maybe pass an ordinance or a resolution doing that with the international fire code. But it's just, we got to bear in mind, we do have to do the research of the code to make sure it's complicit to what our ordinances are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Number 2 is a first reading, proposed ordinance for the E-Course Road form-based district to enact form-based zoning and updated uses.
Megan Masson-Minock again. If it's okay with the Township Board, I'd like to give a short PowerPoint that we gave to the Planning Commission that I know that they found helpful to explain the ordinance amendments as they were presented, because if you just take a reading of them, it's not necessarily intuitive to everybody. First of all, I wanted to thank your staff and community who all contributed to this. There were several community meetings, and also your staff weighed in and helped a lot through this process. And really, this is because of the placemaking plan that I mentioned earlier that was adopted last year with a new vision for not only East Michigan Avenue, but E-Course Road. And that is to really change things that are going on in the street in some subtle ways that are shown on this slide here. One of the things is on-street parking, striping, lights, new trees, new landscaping. These are all things that the township would do through improvements led by the township, not necessarily by zoning. However, if you notice in the first part and the second part, there's a new building that you can see that's been inserted on a vacant block. And there's lots of vacant lots down E-Course. And the difference with that building is that it's up to the road like many of the others, but under current zoning, it wouldn't be allowed to be like that. And then also it's higher quality design, and that would be things that would be required in the zoning ordinance. So that's why we're here for you tonight. And again, to the supervisor's question about planning, this was part of that plan, again, that you adopted, and specifically called out E-Course Road to be neighborhood mixed use in a new zoning plan. And so this is part of that. And this was really initiated too as a project to help both a project that's between the city and the township to establish what's called a corridor improvement authority, so that both the city and the township can work on this shared vision for E-Course Road and the improvements. And that is a TIF district that would generate some of the funds to do some of the other things that I talked about. So that was the impetus for between us why to do that now.
Megan, I just wanted to point out that this is in the packet.
Yeah, this is in the packet.
Just I didn't know if folks knew that.
So thanks. So absolutely follow along. Next slide just really goes on, again, as to more, why are we doing this? So this graphic was based on an actual lot that's vacant along E-course. And you can see where it says current B3 zoning, that in order to build that building like that, it actually needs a variance in terms of where the parking goes. And so, and if you, again, you can look at it, it's a pretty shallow lot. It's square. There's not a lot of space in there if you look between the dotted lines in order to build. And so what the proposal is that that line would move, and then also there would be a required build-to line so that the buildings are all on the same, coming up to the same place on the street. It's better for motorists, it's better for pedestrians. But what happens within why developers push back is that it really doesn't help to get that front row of parking, which a lot of folks sometimes feel like they need in order to be successful. However, everybody on the road does it. It's not necessarily needed, especially if you're looking to have a walkable pedestrian environment, which is what the vision was for E-course Road. Does anybody have any questions about that, what is existing, and then what's proposed?
Yes, hi. Just a couple questions. So if it's existing building, they would either, and I just want to I'm just asking, so if I'm wrong, please let me know. They would either have to have the parking go in the front or the back of the building, if I have it correct, and they would have to make parking spaces for that?
This is scenario as if you're building on a vacant lot.
On a vacant lot,
So
okay.
this is not an existing building. So
Thank you.
So
That
in
was
your
my
mind,
question.
have it
Yeah.
that as a vacant lot.
Okay, thank
And
you.
so under current zoning, that's probably where the building would be. It would make sense for the developer. And also kind of, they got a park. That's the other thing is a lot of times it gets lost in zoning is we think about the lot itself and the setbacks, but also all the other things that come in with the building, the parking, where the dumpster is, where loading is, all those things have to be accommodated on the lot. And the smaller those setbacks get, the more difficult it is. And one of the challenges on E-course Road is those lots are really shallow. Some of them only are 80 feet deep. And so if you have a 20-foot setback on the back and the rear, you can do the math, it takes away a lot of buildable space. And what the proposal is before you tonight in these zoning ordinance amendments is actually those setbacks would flex with the size of the lot. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Any other questions on this? So the other thing that would change here is in terms of uses. And so green checks mean that they're under current zoning, proposed zoning, and red X's means that they're not allowed. So currently, under your current zoning, you don't allow any multiple family or mixed use along E-course. And you've got some lots, specifically those lots on the north side of E-course between Glenwood and Harris. It's a long, skinny strip. And it backs up to single-family residential. It's been vacant for a long time. When we were doing the placemaking plan, we tried a various amount of things to fit on there, and the thing that worked best were townhomes, but those weren't zoned there. So we want to make sure that that scenario was allowed, and then also a mixed-use scenario. The two things that are proposed to no longer be allowed, so this is for new development, would be auto sales and auto repair. Because it was felt that those are not uses that create the walkable atmosphere that is the vision for that area. Those existing auto sales and auto repair, they can stay, they would become non-conforming uses. They would have some, and I can get into a little later about how they would be able to expand if they wanted to.
Madam Chair, I have just a general question. This might be like more broadly for just zoning, but like what's the thing with the no drive-through? Like why is that? Listen, I have 2 kids and I'm telling you, I hate getting out of the car. I just want to understand that more from like a zoning perspective.
Yeah.
Why do we not allow that? Because in my mind, it doesn't change the flow of anything.
So in two things is, number one, in terms of creating a walkable environment, those drive-throughs, when they have two driveways, create more conflicts for cars and pedestrians. So think of yourself not in your car with your kid, but pushing your stroller down the sidewalk. And then when you have to negotiate two cars coming in and out. Whenever you have a driveway, for the pedestrian, it makes it a point of uncertainty. So that's one. Number two is that you can do drive-throughs in these scenarios, but what you need to require is that the drive-through is in the back. And quite frankly, with these really shallow lots here, there's not probably enough room for a drive-through. However, if you get on East Michigan Ave, if you get on Huron or Whitaker, in those scenarios, those lots are big enough to accommodate those drive-throughs. It's just from a design perspective that they should be in the back, and you can require those in the back. And actually, if you go to Ypsilanti Township, you'll see some where there's drive-throughs in the back. That's Starbucks, actually, that's in that strip mall. It has in front of Myers, it has a front, but it also has, you don't see the drive-through.
I know that one.
You know that one, okay. So, and absolutely, when my kids were under 5, I did not want to get out of the car.
Yeah.
Because then sometimes they wouldn't sleep. And so I feel you.
And it's not me, like
Yeah.
we always talk about like making our township more livable for young families and growing families. And,
Right, yeah.
Not that, like, literally we can get out of the car, it's fine. There's
Yeah,
no problems.
but I think
just curious.
there's a balance between design,
Lot size.
lot size, and then also making places a great place. A great place and sometimes you have to put the pedestrian first before the car. And so when you're designing how that road works, do it for the person who's the most vulnerable.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking about E-course because I grew up over there. And so like, there's already like two, and like, I think it just seems to me that there's already a lot of traffic uncertainty areas for pedestrians.
Yeah.
I know that very well. So I just was curious. I'm not saying I disagree with it. I was just wondering.
Couple questions. Thank you, for Madam Chair, sorry. For the bank, so in the bank scenario, in this case, if they did have a drive-up aspect, would it be like the Chase on, what's that, Ellsworth, over by Myers, in this case?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay,
So-
the drive, I guess you could say, the tellers are in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, that was the question I had, yeah.
Yeah.
And then with the, just because I just like to put this on the record, because I know it may come up, in that stretch already, how many auto businesses already exist?
I do not have that figure.
Probably more than what is needed in regards to
Yes.
residents getting their cars repaired?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, it would be totally appropriate in order to not allow any proposed zoning for additional auto repair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
On the gas stations and the car wash?
So the gas stations and the car washes stayed as special uses.
Right.
And that was something that we heard from the community, was that those gas stations there are key businesses in terms of not only for washing your car and getting fuel, but for getting food, basic needs. That's the only stores there that those were well used. And also had everybody knew the owners' names.
What car wash? I'm confused.
I think the car wash was some.
The private, the hand wash. It's by, used by Donnelly's, used to be. Oh, there's one by Cuppy's too, that you're right. Oh, one by, yeah, because remember there's the wine guy. He connected to his, yeah,
Oh,
beehive guy. But there's also a hand wash up by where Don Lee's used to be. Hawkers, yeah, across from Hawkers.
so from a land use, do we have enough gas stations and enough, or, I'm trying to understand,
No more, right?
but that's not what that says.
Well, so when you make something non-conforming, so first of all, both of them are special land uses, so they're going to have the additional level of scrutiny. Also, when we get over later, you'll see that those would only be allowed on a certain type of parcel. Third was, again, because those gas stations were really valued by the community, in terms of putting that non-conforming status on them.
Oh, right.
It would make them more difficult, sometimes make them more difficult to expand, to do things. And also, there is, I'm sure I know you've heard from other property owners who've been in that situation, and sometimes it makes it more difficult for them to get a loan in a banking situation.
But that same argument's true for the auto, right?
It would be the same situation would be for the auto sales and repair, but the auto sales and repair do not sell basic needs and goods that the gas stations do through their stores that are there.
I guess and maybe I'm not asking it very well, and I apologize, but we're eliminating some of the auto uses, but under this, you're allowing gas stations and additional car washes. So whatever we have can stay.
Yes.
Under, right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what's the argument for, or the planning?
So in an ideal, like if you were just looking at this in theory from an ideal planning world, you would never, ever, ever have a gas station or a car wash on a walkable corridor. Just like you would never, ever, ever probably have auto sales or repair or drive-through. However, theory does not always apply to all situations. And what we heard from folks was that those gas stations are core areas, core anchors in our community.
Right, and they're not going to
Yeah.
they're not going to be eliminated.
And they're not going to be,
So why are you allowing them for the future?
so that they could more easily expand, and also there might be, so they could more easily expand, and they wouldn't have the same burden on them that in terms of a non-conforming status as the auto sales or the repair. So,
So you're kind of in a trick bag though, because if you don't want any more, what you would do would stop those from being able to get more loans or refinance.
right, and again, if we can, when I go forward, we're going to bump around. So the gas stations would only be allowed on these red parcels. And
Is
those,
that where they're currently, or?
no, well, there's some, so, special, they would only be allowed on the blue and the red parcels as a special land use, because those are 6 automotive. And if that's something that you want to revise, you could absolutely tonight have the direction that gas stations should be taken out and they should just be non-conforming. So,
Well, I'm just trying,
Yeah.
I am just, as a person listening to it, trying to understand the logic behind eliminating one, although they can still stay and they can still
Yeah.
expand. And then you're saying, treat these other uses
differently.
Like
And the gas station serves a different use than a use to a family or a resident than an auto repair. An auto repair is something that's usually once a month or once every year, and then it also draws people from outside, and there's a lot of parking of vehicles associated with that. So with auto repair and with auto sales, you have a lot of cars sitting outside. That's just generally to the use. With a gas station, now most of their profit doesn't come from the gas. A lot of it comes from those markets. That's why they keep getting bigger and bigger. And then also it's a daily need.
We have 3 on Ecorse Road.
There's 3 on Ecorse Road, and there's daily needs that come and go.
So how many would be allowed under the new scenario? We currently have 3.
So under the new scenario, that anything that is blue or red on that map, they would be able to apply for a special land use for.
Yeah,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I had a question
yes,
or
Jim.
two. Special use, they have to go to the planning commission to
They have to go to the
be
planning
allowed,
commission.
right? Correct?
They have to go to the planning commission, go through a public hearing, and also, I'm sure your township attorney would tell you that the difference is that they have discretionary standards where the planning commission is perfectly within their rights to say no, even if they meet every letter of the zoning ordinance, because they're taking into mind discretionary standards such as the impact on the neighborhood.
Okay. And the second question is actually a clarification. Auto repair and what was the other one?
Auto repair and sales are the two.
They can remain even if they transfer ownership. However, if a new owner wants to change the business, they have to conform with the new ordinance, correct?
Correct.
I mean, the new zoning.
Yeah.
In the case of the gas stations, if a new owner came in and wanted to change the business, having that special use allows for other parcels for another owner to have a gas station. In that scenario, I guess if,
Let's say the gas station turns into a florist shop, and then,
at least there's other parcels available where
Right.
someone could have a gas station again.
yes,
However, for the auto, it will pretty much be eliminated if it ever changes
yes,
its use. Okay.
exactly. Okay,
I would be concerned if there was a gas station between Redwood and Rosewood. I mean, that's a large vacant parcel where George School's on,
yep,
and that doesn't seem, it's a deep parcel.
yeah.
There's one right next door, like, I don't know if that would be a business, like, if I had it, if I was gonna wanna own a gas station, if I would go right next to the busy Sunoco, you know?
Yeah. And absolutely, one of the things that you could direct us tonight is to say, we would like gas stations to be taken off of, gas station and car washes to be taken off that list of uses and just allow those businesses there now to be non-conforming.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I guess my concern with that, and it kind of touches on the auto sales too. Again, like I grew up, this is like the corridor that I grew up on. And I knew every gas station person. Like when I was a little kid, they knew my name when I came in. But the same thing is true for auto sales, or more auto repair, not sales. And I know that there's an eyesore on Ecorse Road. I see it all the time with all those bajillion cars out. But, you know, half the time they're not compliant with what they should be doing anyways. So that's another issue. But auto sales and repair people, you go to people you trust and your family knows, they've always gone to. Like I think of like Ed's Garage, like, I mean, it's not Ed's anymore, but like that was like a trusted place that everyone went to. So I think that sometimes when we're talking about these like, you know, really historically rich neighborhoods, like those auto repair places are equitable on that sort of same like homey level as like a gas station. I understand the like basic needs thing, but I guess I'm just concerned. I wouldn't want like any current auto repair or salesperson to want to upgrade or improve and then have to conform with all of these zoning things, even though that their business has been established for years. So I need clarification around that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and we had several conversations with your staff had several conversations with those business owners. And so it would. About how this would affect their business. And for some of those business owners, actually, it would help them because they could, their building envelope expanded and they could expand within that building envelope. So they could expand their business, the building itself, and put cars in. In the beginning, they were very anxious and worried. And then after 3 or 4 conversations, and they were, everyone was well noticed and flyers were given, and your economic development director at the time went and met with businesses. When we got to the public hearing, we didn't have anyone speak in opposition or show up. So I would say that we've had conversations, but I don't know, I don't have the documentation of those conversations because I wasn't the one who did them.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Also, and I guess former now Economic Development Director for having those conversations with the auto repair businesses on e-course, because I know initially it was announced during a meeting, and that was not good. So I know that the business owners were not very happy with learning that way. So that's why I asked the question I did earlier in regards to the auto repair businesses being able to, if they want to, still being able to expand the ones that are there, but eliminating, the zoning for others. That's why I specifically asked that question, to be completely honest. So the next question that I have is, it's kind of like almost with Brenda's, it's almost a follow-up to Brenda's. If I have it correct, you said that anywhere within the blue and the red, technically, and a gas station or a car wash could go, correct?
Right, so anything in this, so the permitted use, so type B and C, and so the special use groups there, B is automotive, so the car wash and the gas station, and then for the special use group, those on 5, those were larger uses that need a bigger parcel.
Okay, so my question on that would be, if, I need to go back, make sure I'm forming it correctly, so sorry. Okay. If you have gas stations where the blue, well, you can put a gas station, a car wash, more gas stations and car washes, but they still have to apply for special use. And so you're going to have a flow of cars, right, at that point going on and off of e-course. Does that work with making it walkable? Because it seemed like it's a bit of an oxymoron there.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, absolutely. And then one of the things is that you would be depending that at that special land use review, the planning commission would be looking at that, looking at the planning principles that were laid out for the corridor, and then willing to say no based on those.
Okay, and then the second question I have is, I know, again, like Brenda had cited, there's 3 gas stations already on e-course. Has there been any studies in regards to if, currently, there are enough gas stations to serve the populace that would be pretty much, might as well say, if you want to count Goff Village, Sugarbrook, West Willow, Oakland Hawthorne, is 3, and if you go around the corner, there's 4, because now you have 4 gas stations, there's another one around the corner. Would that be enough gas stations to serve the populace that is there, and what could come, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years? Because if so, then my question would be, should we allow more gas stations? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
So a specific market study for this area was not done in terms of gas stations or in terms of car repair or car sales.
Clerk Rowe.
Is there, because I understand we want those businesses that are there, we'd want them to reinvest and clean up and expand and whatever. Is there any way that you can pluck them out of the rezoning and leave them like they are, and then the rest of the area, get rid of that blue and green for car washes in there? I know it's weird, and maybe it's spot zoning or something, because I don't know how else we can reach where they could not be hung up on the whole refinancing.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with the zoning tool that does that.
Okay.
There are other things that you could do. Again, you could say that have all 3 of those uses, say, we're going to remove them from the zoning district, and they're going to be non-conforming. And we find that all three of them have the same impacts, and we think that all of them have enough. And really, it's more that you're looking for this to be a walkable district. There's also ways that we can require those, if you require those buildings to come up, things like that, to make it more walkable that are in these standards. But it's really tough with a gas station. And it's tough with the auto repair, and then the auto sales, just because of the volume of cars that are either coming in and out or are stored on the lot.
Megan, I remember one gas station, special conditional use, kind of like you're proposing here. It was not easy to deny that.
Yeah.
Like our planner, because it met every single, fire,
Okay.
water, sewer. It was very hard. It's not as easy as you made it sound. It just only, and I was letting Jimmy know, because I literally went through that when I was on the planning commission
Right.
with a,
Yeah. No, you would have to depend on your planning commission really sticking to the principles, the walkable principles of that corridor, and also traffic studies about how many more cars it would put on and things like that.
so when we did this, it was like a downtown, like that was the idea, was to be more like a downtown feel, so we can have, our specialty shops, and while keeping what we have and allowing current owners to still retain their,
Yeah.
their rights and services. But
The other thing.
I missed
Right.
I don't know how I missed the gas station car wash expansion. And I was at the meeting where the business owners were invited to attend, and their biggest concern was, and you guys addressed it, Ben was there and Charlotte was there, the nonconformity. But we do that, we write letters and zoning verification to
Right.
help
And then
people.
the other thing on the non-conforming, with the slide that I have up, is that you have a unique thing a unique option in your zoning ordinance that only a few communities have. It's called a Class A non-conforming designation. So they would come to the Planning Commission, and they would be almost treated like a special land use in terms of if they wanted to expand, if they were non-conforming use or a non-conforming structure, with a public notice. So essentially, and I know your staff talked to businesses who were in auto repair and auto service about it. So if they wanted to expand, that could do that. And that would almost be, Karen, like what you were talking about, is that, almost a dot on the map that you can do what you want to do. But they have to go through that process. And once they have that Class A non-conforming designation, that letter works just as well with a bank and financing. So I'm sorry to not talk about that option earlier. So from what I'm gathering from what the board is saying is maybe your direction will be that gas stations and car washes are not included in the list of allowed uses, and then depend on folks coming through that non-conforming A designation if they want to expand. I've also worked with communities where if they've changed zoning or something like this, and they feel like they've put individuals in a spot for the greater good, they've done things like waive fees for those particular folks. So that would be something that you could consider to help those folks, because it's an extra process for them.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
We're-
So,
Everybody kind of agree on that? Does everybody agree with her summary, kind of? So when we do the motion, we can,
Well, this is first reading, she can,
yeah, we just need some direction from you about what the board would want at the next reading.
I would not like to have more gas stations or more car washes. I'm not sure how everybody feels.
Okay. So real quickly, I'm taking a lot of your time in the work session, and
It's fine.
Thank
we
you.
have a lot of people behind you. But
Okay.
this is important.
So wanted to kind of walk you through this process of how this would go. So this is actually in the ordinance, and then I'm going to walk you through it. So first thing you do is if I'm a developer or if I am a property owner, I locate my site, I figure out what color it is, and that's going to drive what uses I can do and what type of building I can do. So as I go through, you can see that this table is there. If I'm a site type A, I'm a permitted building form A1 and A2. I know that means nothing, but really what that means is that you can do these townhouses, or you can do a one-story building, 1 to 2 story building, and that can be mixed with the parking in the rear. And so each building form has parking scenarios, and where all kind of the extras that go with a building are and should be on the site, and that's in the zoning as well. And so then the next thing is to, again, narrow it down to your building forms, and then you can do, then that tells you also what uses can go in that building. So the use in the building are regulated separately, but they empty and fill, mix and match. The group 1 is residential uses, so single family attached or mixed use. A2 is single family attached or one family. There are some one family structures who are still there. So that use would be allowed, but we don't have a single family structure that's left. Another thing that we're saying is we're not going to build more single family homes on eCourse. We're going to build townhouses. We're going to build multiple family. We're going to build mixed use. This is the things that we're going to allow. Then A2, the second one is residential, either multiple family, or those things that go along with residential, like live work, like accessory dwelling unit, like childcare, and also bed and breakfast. Group 3, which is, again, allowed in all along eCourse. Group 2 and Group 3 are allowed in every single place. 3 is office institutional. 4 is retail, entertainment, and service. And then 5 is designated as miscellaneous and larger. And those are always, that's a special land use only on the larger parcels. And those are things like commercial kennels, medical clinics, funeral homes, places of worship, fitness, gymnastics, exercise centers, theaters, places of assembly. Things where you're going to have a lot of people, and there's going to need to be a bigger parcel and more parking. And so that was what drove those choices. And again, that was talking about the nonconformities, and for the nonconforming structures, just so the gray blob, the gray is the building, that really they won't be able to go back, but they can go to the side. And also, because the zoning then allows you to fill out more of those. And again, we're happy to answer any questions, suggestions, edits.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, just a comment. Thank you for taking the time to talk to residents within that area in order to also get their thoughts and opinions and ideas about what it is that they wanted to see. So just appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
So
Okay.
this is first reading?
This is
Second
the-
reading will be at the next meeting and with the changes discussed? Is that the direction, or do we say that it?
We can just make the motion tonight, and that way you can redo the verbiage, include the changes you want, so then they have it for the second.
Well, if you as a planner agree, I don't want to.
No, I absolutely agree.
Okay.
I absolutely
That's all I
agree. As I was trying to describe, we made that exception because of what we had heard in terms of those businesses and the role they play.
And we won't hurt those businesses at all. So item number 3 is the request to approve a border-to-border trail agreement for Bridge Road to Snow Road and the Grove Road Trail segment with the Washtenaw County Parks and Recreation. I know we have Roy Townsend here and Matt Parks.
Like the next 7 agenda items, or 6, are all related to the border-to-border Trail and Grove Road.
Come on, guys, you need to come up and talk about it.
The first one's the agreement.
First one's Roy's.
Yep.
Well, kinda.
I'll join you.
We'll jointly do it, how about that?
Name for the record.
Roy Townsend with Washington County Parks and Rec.
Matt Parks with OHM.
So the first one is...
Number 3.
Yeah, so the first one is a request for approval on the agreement between Washington County Parks and the Ypsilanti Township, Charter Township. And we're talking about an agreement that we basically, a lot of you know, I used to work at Washington County Road Commission, went to Washington County Parks about a year ago, and I'm actually familiar with connecting communities and trying to put all the non-motorized that the Ypsilanti Township's been doing for the last 20 years. So I also worked with Van Buren Township and trying to get their non-motorized Iron Bell Trail through Van Buren Township. Because always the goal, when I worked at the Road Commission, was the border-to-border trail was always going to go to the intersection of Rawsonville and Textile here in River Drive. So to go down Bridge, down Textile, and actually there was a grant a while ago, but it didn't happen because of the railroad. Working with Van Buren Township the past 9 months, a new route was approved in their township, which went on the north side of the lake rather than the south side. So basically along the service drive, they have a large park on the north side called Van Buren Township Park. It's a really nice park. Then it comes into Belleville, then goes out to Lower Huron. So with that, the new alignment for the border-to-border really goes down Grove Road to Rawsonville, crosses that Grove and Rawsonville. It goes up around the shopping center and goes into their park. So what this is an agreement to, last year the parks gave the township, it was last year or 2 years ago? Last year, Connecting Communities grant to extend the non-motorized trail across Rawsonville Elementary. Also, I think it was OHM's and the township's desire to rebuild the section between Bridge Road to the elementary, because that was in pretty bad shape. That's about 20 years old. You guys, I think, took bids last fall. Then I got involved and said, hey, now this is actually going to be considered part of the border trail and Iron Bell Trail. So I think parks could probably help put a little bit more money in. But also, we also thought that ideally the trail would going through lower, in North Hydro Park, as part of it's already there, going up the property that you just acquired through River Grove, that was formerly River Grove, figure out some alignments, and we could actually make the trail go into the park, go through the Bacon's parcel, go up to Rawsonville Elementary, cross at Snow, and go on the north side of Grove down to Rawsonville, then go into Van Buren Township. Giving you a lot of background information. So the agreement sort of like tries to pull all that together. Washington County Parks would put money in. We're hoping to get a grant from Iron Bell or a DNR grant. Township would then save some money because money they have to put in construction would be paid for by us. But then you'd also hire OHM to design the next phase, so we could do that in 2020. So the goal would be this summer, build the section along Grove Road from Bridge down to Rawsonville. Next year, try to build the section through North Hydro up to Grove, then along the north side of Grove Road from Snow to Rawsonville. And then the exciting part for, I think, for both the township and the Parks Commission, we finally get to a border, which is i.e. Wayne County. And like I said, I'm working with Van Buren Township, and they're excited about trying to start there at Rawsonville and Grove, start marching around and trying to get through Van Buren Township, City of Belleville, and all the way out to Lower Huron Metro Park. And if you get to Lower Huron Metro Park, there's a trail already, 30 miles of trail that goes all the way to Lake Erie. And eventually, then that trail is going to eventually go up to the city of Detroit and tie a lot of things together. So this, I think it was an opportunity. Township's putting in a little bit of money. Parks putting in a little bit of money. We're going to get some money hopefully from the state and pull it all together, do some work this year, and also then roll into project next year. So a lot of background information, but hopefully I could answer some of your questions with that explanation. Matt may have a few more.
Yeah,
things.
just to hit on what Roy said. I mean, the key part of this agreement with the county is it helps fund a lot of the pathway that I think originally this part of Grove Road that we're going to get to in here in a little bit, the Connecting Communities was paying for the part across the school, and then the township was actually using their own funds to rehabilitate the path along Grove. This allows a situation where now County Parks is actually paying for the construction. So it is a good deal. It's a good cooperative effort. and moves things along, and actually, bottom line, it saves the township funds. You're still participating, but at a lot less level than you were previously. So it's a win-win, really, for everybody.
Questions or comments?
Madam Chair. So, question, just a couple of things. I worked on the Iron Bell Trail Committee. I think it was late 2018 and very early this year, and then it went away. But either way, so just wanted to make sure okay, when you're going from South Hydro into Yucca, there's obviously the Huron River is there. Is the bridge still talked about there to extend the trail, or no?
There was like 3 or 4 different alignments looked at
Right.
trying to get to, but now that we don't need to cross the river anymore.
crossing
We're
the
going to
river. Okay.
We're going to stay in the north side of the
Okay.
river and get
Okay.
down to Grove and Rawsonville. So we just go through North Hydro and wind up, part of that trail is already there, and cut across. So that was an alignment we looked at. End of the day, since Van Buren's really going to be at Grove and Rawsonville, that's our new point, rather than going down to Textile and Rawsonville.
All right, I know it saves costs because you don't have to build a
Yeah, it
bridge.
does, yeah, it saves
Okay.
costs
All
and
right.
environmental concerns and.
Right, okay. And then, just curious, with Rosenville, I shouldn't say Rosenville, Van Buren, they're actually going to now use Service Drive as a connector, is that what I heard?
What they're going to do is cross it, Grove,
Huron
sort of like
River?
McDonald's across the way, go north up to the shopping center, across
Uh-huh.
like not Taco Bell, but all the different fast food restaurants, I think there's Wendy's and Hardee's and whatever's all up there. Then, but Taco Bell's to the south.
You're right.
And going to the north, you get to the shopping center, then it's going to go by Denny's. And also, they hope to work with the shopping center because it's an older shopping center that has 10 acres of parking, probably needs 5 acres of parking or something. We're going to try to widen out the green space in front to put the path. Once it gets around to the east of the shopping center, there's one residential parcel, but then that's right where their park starts. And their park is about a half mile of frontage on Belleville Lake. So then it's going to go into the park and go all the way to the east. Years ago, there used to be a bridge over, what's the creek there? I don't know. There's a creek that, Belleville.
Talking
near
about
Denton
Belleville
Road.
Lake?
Huh?
Talking about Belleville Lake?
Yeah,
right?
Belleville Lake,
Okay.
near Old Denton Road.
Okay.
They're going to put that bridge back and then go to Old Denton Road, and Denton Road will tie back into the city of Belleville.
Okay.
I think it might be Willow Run Creek, actually. They somehow disappeared 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. So they're going to put that back and utilize the park, which is actually a really nice park in Belleville. I think it's underutilized now, so putting that trail through there and going through the city of Belleville, then out here in River Drive. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. I'm glad they came up with that configuration because I know we were discussing various ways. So I'm glad that's actually a better configuration, so thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Winters, you had a couple questions.
Yeah, and some of these might be more legal policies. There's some overlapping on the agreements beyond just the border to border. But I was just trying to understand, Roy and Matt, right now in the first agreement, and this is maybe something for future township boards to at least put over here in a category of how to fund certain things. But under this agreement, the township does, at the end of the project, become the owner of the segment that we're talking about. And we also are going to be obligating to repair, maintain the project with non-motorized trail maintenance standards applied throughout the township. I'm not sure if I've ever seen what those non-motorized standards are, and maybe it's something the board already has as part of the budgetary process. I'm just trying to make the board aware that there are going to be obligations for future boards to at least be aware of in these agreements. And this, it's not to, say, no, don't do it. Just be aware that there are a number of responsibilities. And on the funding part of it, I know that we're going to be responsible for the design project costs for the trail segment that's estimated at 42. The one I'm also kind of concerned about is the design funding responsibility in regards to that portion that could go through the North Hydro Park At one time, when I was at one meeting where the conversation came up about, are we going to do an overlay over that portion of the North Hydro Park that the township just acquired? We spent a lot of time and resources acquiring that 17.19 acre parcel because that was the River Grove Phase 2. We understand there's a lot of money that still needs to be invested in that property to make that a viable River Grove Phase 2 condo project. River Grove Phase 1 was a very successful project, but is there going to be an overlay done before all this begins so that we don't, whatever portion you need, say from North Hydro, just so it doesn't have a negative impact upon the rest of the property, in the event the township board does request us to proceed with the finalization of an RFP to sell that portion of the property? Because initially, when we started going to court to get that to get the property under township ownership, I don't recall at the time this being, a possibility. That's good. This is good. I just don't want to actually. I was kind of curious how this overlay could or could not affect the design component. And I think there's something in here about going to the lowest bidder as opposed to the lowest qualified bidder. And I think there's a difference between the lowest bidder and the one who's the lowest qualified, because it's in a different section about the construction phase. So there's just a myriad of issues that by themselves may not be, a major one, but together they just raise these questions. And I think that the funding down the road, after many of us are no longer here, there's going to be a certain legacy component to a lot of these projects that I want the board at least to be aware of, so that as they do their budgets every year, they take into account that there's going to be some maintenance costs, and they may not be major. I just don't know what they are. That's all.
I can touch on an item that you mentioned about the River Grove site, and I know, Doug, we talked a little bit. Item 7 is the design proposal for that next phase of Grove Road, so Snow to Rosenville and then the connection to Hydro Park. In that proposal, we have a task in there that basically overlays the approved unbuilt PUD and actually gives the township 3 different options, up to 3 different concepts, where we can either plan for building out that PUD as it was approved, or some hybrid thereof, or not. And there's some meeting time and collaboration with the township staff, township elected officials. So that's being considered, because I know, whether that ends up going back up on the market and getting built out, or if something else happens, whether it becomes like a park trailhead or some kind of hybrid thereof, I know that was being considered. So that's in our design scope for item 7. So
I think that is not going to be done until 2020.
correct.
And like everything else, everything is kind of time sensitive with the marketplace.
Yep.
And I'm just saying that phone calls that were coming in, I don't know what's going to happen. No
Sure.
one does. I'm just saying, but that's going to push that out into, maybe 2021. I don't know.
Yep.
For that to be. I just make everybody aware that, we did spend a lot of time and effort on the River Grove Phase 2 to get that under ownership, and we have. And that's great for the park trail. I just trying to figure out, do we have to wait till 2020 to do that overlay, when that might allow the board
No, our
time period to do it?
Yeah. I mean, the goal would be, if you guys authorized item 7 tonight, we'd begin commencing design, and we'd probably be working on those overlays fairly quickly here, in the next, following 4th of July into August, be talking about that, and then wrap everything up this fall get prepared for a winter bid.
As far as the maintenance costs, Roy, any idea what the board's looking at for that? I don't know myself.
Yeah, let me first tag on what Matt was saying. Yeah, we're supportive. I mean, the alignment we threw down, I just drew a line and tried to touch the pot. If you come up with a better alignment, we're fine with that. I mean, because initially the North Hydro connection to Grove, a year ago really wasn't even an option, but now that the township controls that land, it's like, okay, we can actually connect the park to Grove Road. So, if Matt comes up with, 2 or 3 alignments and the township says, hey, let's go with alignment A or B or C, Parks is fine with that. I mean, we don't really care, so that works. As far as the maintenance costs, what we try to do is put in the language, whatever the township standard is. We're not trying to, impose a new standard on what your other paths along the roads. So we're all asking is, whatever you're doing with the other 2 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles, whatever you have, do the same thing for this, next half mile or whatever we're building this summer. The cost, I think that a number that we've been, is a few $1,000s a year per mile. And it depends, obviously, if it's a segment of trail that the parks actually has to go out and mow. Some of this is probably in someone's front yard or, development, so they're going to mow it, so that reduces that cost. If it's the section that the township owns, yeah, then they are going to probably require mowing that area. So those are some of the, it's variable, but we're really not asking for anything more than what the township's doing on the other trail segments. And I think, if you get a federal grant, they ask for the same thing. When you go, the TAP grant, they're requiring you as a township to take ownership of it, and you say you're going to maintain it. I can't say, 20 or 30 years ago when the trail is failed, what's that burden? Is the parks going to assist because it's part of the border and Iron Bell? I can tell you right now, segments in Ann Arbor, it's part of the border. We're partnering with them right now, part of Gallup Park Trail, to reconstruct. I can't make promises that we're going to do that 20 years from now, but that is occurring, because our goal is on the border trail to keep that in good condition. But what we're talking about right now is the routine maintenance. Asking you to do the mowing, no winter maintenance. I mean, that's a township decision. If some townships and some cities do that, that's fine. But we're just talking about, maybe if it needs to be swept once a year or whatever else you do, or mow it whatever times a year, a path and next to it. So those are things that we would, expect and hope that, the township would do.
I think we understand. I want the board to make sure that as Brenda does the budget each year by this time, there's a lot of things that are known, some things that may not be as clear going forward. And, as years go by and all of us up here, some of us up here are no longer sitting here, I just want future boards to understand that there's certain, this is my word, legacy costs that are associated with these projects that just need to be kept in mind, because they do, after a while, start becoming more significant, not because of this one, but because of other maintenance obligations that become part of the overall township body. So just to make the board aware that there are obligations.
Just for some clarification, we seem to have taken our current project that we're doing, approved, already bidded, and incorporating it into this agreement? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, exactly. So you guys, we were doing the pizza in front of the
Because the words are, you will do this, and we've already done that.
Right, some of the design services you've already paid for, or occurred, because it was part of the Rawsonville and some of the rebidding, So some of the work's already been done, some of it will be done. And as far as bid, the part of this agreement is anticipating that you guys will hire best or hire, a most qualified contractor. I mean, they are the low bid.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, but you mix the border trail, the Bridge Road to Snow Road, and the Grove Road Trail segment, as well as Iron Bell, right?
Yeah, well, Iron Bell and border are essentially the same through this area. And Iron Bell just designates it so it's eligible for state money. The border is in Washtenaw County, whereas Iron Bell basically goes from Bell Iron to Ironwood, so it goes all the way through the state. So it just makes it eligible for different funding opportunities.
But there's no Iron Bell funding here, is it connecting communities?
It's going to be, our goal is to get some DNR Iron Bell money, and we've had some discussions with them. I think $135,000 potentially will be coming from the state.
Is that for the new design phase on the north side of Grove Road on our property on Liberty Square?
It'd be for actually the phase under being built in 2019.
So it's going to be, excuse me.
I was going to say, this doesn't deal with that phase.
But it refers to it. That was where I'm getting a little.
It doesn't. Well, the agreement deals with both. It really connects all the way from Bridge and Grove all the way to Rawsonville under sort of two alignments. One's going along the south side of Grove to the Rossville Elementary, then going North Hydro up to Grove, then going from Snow on the north side of Grove. So there's, I don't have a map in front of me, but there's,
Well, when you talk in the dollars, it says trail construction, Washtenaw County Park B2B millage is 145,000. So B2B is both all segments, is that what you're saying? Or is it for the current segment that we just bid out and we're just awarding the contract?
it's, I guess, for both alignments. I mean, it's the alignment going along the south side, across the reconstruct section of River Grove and the section of
Snow.
Snow.
To
yeah.
Snow, yeah.
Exactly, in Rossville Elementary. I think some of it was already connecting communities money. I mean, end of the day, is money from parks. They just wanted to clarify, we have sort of different budget line items for connecting communities versus board-to-board or millage money. End of the day, it's money from parks. I guess that was for our clarification, but end of the day, from the townships, it's really parks money. And then also, I think we put a line item in there for MDNR trust.
135,000 for
Right.
MDNR.
That's from Iron Bell, since it's designated Iron Bell.
So that's for the future?
No, that's for this construction.
On Grove Road?
On Grove Road, yes. Since now it's being designated Iron Bell, makes it eligible for Iron Bell money. And we've talked to them, really, we just got to fill out a 2-page form, and we can get,
Yeah, I
State
want to
money.
make sure we know what we're voting for as far as monies. The 497,000 is for the current,
for this current project. Then the next year, the 2020 project, we'll have to take bids and, bid out the sections from North Hydro up to Grove, that Matt's going to design this later this summer with the 3 alignments. And then also the segment between Snow to Rossville on the north side of Grove. County Parks would bid that out, and we would construct that next year with our money. And here again, we may, since Iron Bell, we try to get state money. If not, we'd fund it with millage money, B2B millage. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot going on in this little area.
Everything, but there's no construction money here for what I'm calling phase 2.
Phase 2, right. Because we don't know what that dollar is, figure. But we're committing, the Parks is sort of committing to doing that.
Right.
With our money.
That's what the agreement says.
Right, provided you design it this year. I mean, if we
but
get
the
in.
dollars that are in the budget are not enough to cover the entire project.
Correct, we're going to have to put in more money next year,
Yeah.
Parks.
Yes, you are.
Correct.
Okay, and when you talk about bidding it out, you're talking about what we're currently bidding out and awarding? Or do you expect us to bid it out, the north side of the project and the connection to Hydro?
No, the phase 2, like, I think the best way to
Makes
clarify.
it easier for me to
Yeah, phase
understand. I
2,
gave it a
we,
try.
the Washtenaw County Parks would bid that work out. You guys have already bid out phase 1.
I know.
And you have a contractor ready to go, soon
Yeah.
to be ready to go.
Yeah, I think there could be clarity on it, Roy. I mean, of course, support doing it, but it's not clear what we're approving.
Well, it comes,
It's not broken out.
it comes clear, like this agreement, and I try to debate what to put before, what to go first, and I thought, well, let's do the overall resolution, or the overall agreement that covers the entire thing. Then there'll be a resolution on the bell, and then it'll become clear, because there's 3 items. One is to accept the bid that's already bidded out for the one section, phase 1, and then there's a contract on there where we're going to pay OHM, or actually Parks and Rec is going to pay, county's going to pay OHM to oversee, and then Parks and Rec is going to do some of the overseeing of that actual bid that we're accepting tonight, the construction phase. And the next part is we're going to pay, there's a contract that the township is going to pay OHM to actually design phase 2. That's what, that 90-some thousand the township is responsible for is overseeing what's actually part of what we already paid for, design. And it's going to be this contract that's on our agenda tonight, overseeing the construction and then designing phase 2. That's muddy as can be.
Got it. Correct.
Yeah, but it was, there's 6 agenda items on this. So try to keep it somewhat clear.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't know if you had any more questions. I didn't want to, okay. All right, so I just wanted to confirm that that was the question when I was on the Iron Bell Trail Committee, that, obviously the last administration was go Iron Bell Trail. So now is the current administration the same? If they still have the commitment in order to build the Iron Bell Trail, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there was $5 million put in the current budget. Obviously, the state's working on their next year's budget, but there was $5 million put in Iron Bell. I can't guarantee what they're going to put in for next year's budget, but there was $5 million put in for this year's budget. Hopefully it'll be $5 million, hopefully it'll be more. I mean, obviously, it could be zero, too.
Right, yeah, that's why I want to make sure I bring that up, because I know where the previous administration commitment was to it. Hopefully, they're going through a budget right now.
All
obviously.
indications are that
Yeah.
the current administration supports this, but, it's a budget process in Lansing, and
Of
who
course.
knows the outcome.
Okay, all right, just wanted to, thank you.
I'm not sure if we can make it clear, but if there was a way to say phase two, I don't know if you even can, it's spaghetti. But the bottom line, this 497 is for this current project,
Correct.
and it does not include construction of phase two. It's only construction of what we've already bid out.
Correct, because we have real numbers for
We have
phase
real
one.
numbers on that, yeah. And this amount of money will pay for that in the design of phase two.
Correct.
Yeah.
I did put phase one and phase two in the agenda items for the contracts.
One more question, Mr.
Roy, just so, again, that's part of the confusion in reading this from my end. The township tonight, when they approve this, they're also going to be approving, for in Karen's words, phase two to allow Matt Ray OHM to make the design for the phase two pathway from North Hydro to Grove, correct?
Correct.
And that's the 52,000, whatever it is.
Right.
For that. Now, does the county parks, do they have a resolution or some kind of letter that just says to the effect, we know the township is paying 50,000 plus for the design of phase two. We will commit to funding phase two once we know what.
Yeah, I mean, the Parks Commission did approve this agreement last Tuesday, so
The funding component for phase two is what I'm having a little bit of a.
well, I mean, there's language in there.
It's
We
in
just
that first paragraph.
But there's language in there, a commitment, we don't have a dollar figure because we don't know the dollar figure. So,
It's in that under funding and responsibilities where it says,
sorry.
the design works estimated 50,000. The construct of this trail segment will be funded by the National County Parks and
Right.
Recreation.
And that's what we explained to the Parks Commission
We
last
don't have a,
Tuesday.
we don't have a number.
I know, but I'm saying, so if a number comes in and it's just too high, you're obligating.
Do it in phases.
So that's a commitment. They're going to pay for it no matter what the bids come in.
I can't, if it's $2 million and we think it should be $300,000, we probably would rebid it, just like the township would, and hopefully the goal is to design it this fall, summer, fall, bid it in winter, and construct it next year. Obviously, a lot of things can happen that's what the agreement is, and I think that's the whole intent. Obviously, like I said, if some weird things happen, we may get delayed, but our goal is we want to get to the border. I mean, we've been talking about the border for 20 years, and our commission's pretty excited finally getting to Wayne County. Almost there, you can see it, you can almost touch it. So I think, without some unusual circumstances, we're committed to building it next year.
Maybe in the letter from the clerk's office, it can make clarity, Karen, on phase two. Maybe that would help.
That sounds fine.
Just to have something that says we understand.
Yeah.
All right. The next item is the Iron Bell, or Iron Bell Trail.
Yeah, this is a resolution to accept the new alignment of the Iron Bell, because I think in this area, at one point, there's different routes. Ultimately, I think the route that people had thought about for the last 10 or 15 years was going down Bridge Road, crossing the river somehow, either with a new bridge or the existing dam, then going down to Textile Road, Textile out to Textile here in River Drive and Rossville intersection. The new alignment really goes south on Bridge to Hydro, through Hydro, up to back to Grove, across Rossville Elementary, jump to the north side at Snow, then out Grove Road to Rawsonville. So it's just accepting that, and by accepting that alignment, then it makes it eligible for state money.
And we can make modifications if needed.
Yeah, if something we find out, and that's why the 3 alignments through River Grove, that's ideal. You know, let's figure out what the best alignment is, but it just gives you an idea. We want to go from North Hydro where the path starts, ends today, and then go up there and connect to Grove Road somewhere.
Any questions on that? A lot going on with these trails. The next item is to award the low bid for Phase 1 of the Grove Road pathway.
Yep, so our recommendation letter dated May 24th should be in the packet. Township received 3 bids. The low, who's been mentioned, is qualified. In fact, the township's had multiple contracts with them in the past 4 or 5 years that I've been working on with Best Asphalt. We recommend moving forward with them. The bid came in at $371, $740, $750, and we recommended a 10% contingency to help cover any unforeseen. So the total number there on the agenda and in the letter is $408, $500. So, and Best is good. Boy, last project they worked on recently, I think they helped out with some of the golf course work over on off of Clark Road there near the community center. They were involved in paving around the parking lot out here and assisted with part of Vets Drive paving. So they've been a good quality contractor to work with in the past.
Is there questions on that? No, yeah, there's just, I did, and the 30, is this 33,000 one? Is that what that is? No, 47.9. And I know that the school is going to reimburse us.
Correct, yeah, we have a meeting
40,000?
set up with them, approximately $40,000, and that was just to actually help facilitate part of the construction of the connection from the path into their sidewalk. And to prevent some of the damage, they've agreed to help pay for some of that, and so that's a win-win for them
And
too.
Washtenaw County Parks have agreed to oversee the construction phase of it?
Yeah, we're going to work.
Construction engineering, is that what
Right,
you
we're
call
going
it?
to work with OHM. I think they're going to provide some of it. We'll do the daily inspection and partner with OHM.
I just-
Yep. Yeah, so that's the next item on the agenda. Item,
So we have to, okay, then the next one is the construction services for Phase 1. Is that what you're saying?
yep, item 6. So it's a little unique. I'm sorry, you still. County Parks is going to provide construction oversight, so actually provide the inspection. This proposal packages up our effort to put it back out on the street, to repackage it, work with DTE, put a vault in our old alignment. We got the plans back up to snuff. And then the only thing we're doing is providing survey, staking, and layout, assisting county parks with construction engineering, and then material testing, which is a sub of ours, done by G2 Consulting. Really, county parks is going to be the majority of the effort out there day to day doing the inspection. So they'll be the on-site people, and we're assisting and aiding in that. So it's outlined. Really, task 3 is the coordination, where I'll be assisting Roy, helping him with pay estimates and the typical stuff. But OHM
So we
will-
already rebid it though, right?
Correct. Yeah, we've
So
already,
task 1 is completed,
task 1's completed,
but not paid for,
but not invoiced. Right. I did that all when we decided to rebid it versus
Okay.
not. So.
Any questions on that? No? Next item, you again.
Me again. So this is the design. This is the segment that Roy mentioned would be built in 2020 or planned on being built in 2020. This is the design of the pathway from Rosenville to Snow on the north side of Grove, and then also that Hydro Park connector, where we're going to have several different concepts, have to meet with the township and work on the best one. and working with that River Grove approved PUD. So that, it's pretty straightforward. Again, we plan on designing that and working with county parks to bid it, and targeting the winter so we can achieve the most bidders and the best prices. And then as soon as that was bid and accepted, look to commence construction early spring 2020.
Questions regarding that?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. I'm trying to find it. Matt, I think I read in one of these many items that like you guys felt at OHM that it was best to rebid this project for various reasons, is what it said?
Yeah, well, yes,
Can you just help me understand that a little bit more?
we had, I think, originally bid this back last
Late last year.
Yeah.
August, September.
Late.
It was late last year.
It was very late.
During the slowdown.
Work stoppage.
Yeah, yeah. And so it got to a point where a lot of time had passed. The contractor who was the red low was not even available, and/or we had different changes coming. One being the county parks kind of looking at maybe coordinating and getting the township some additional county parks money, as well as DTE came in with a site plan, and we were making modifications and changes to the plans, and trying to work with the county as well as funding the portion of across River Grove, so basically from the west side of the elementary school all the way to Bridge, wasn't funded. That was all being paid for by township out of pocket. So when we recognized the opportunity, the amount of time that was lapsed, and the contractor being iffy if they were still willing to accept the bids, it seemed like a lot better route for us just to call it, make a clean slate, rebid it, see what we got, and it ended up working out pretty well, I think.
But this agenda item is phase 2, correct?
Right, now we're talking about phase 2, which is
Okay.
totally separate, but part of the agreement.
I was just
So
making sure,
it's-
yeah.
The only reason why I was asking is just the separate line item like it's broken down for the rebidding process, so I was just wondering.
Right.
Yeah, Brenda mentioned that. So when we decided to rebid, a lot of that had to be, whether we were dealing with, working with the contractor at that time to negotiate and change the design, we would have had to spend the effort either way.
Sure.
So to rebid it honestly opened up a lot more opportunity, and it was just a cleaner way to go. And yeah, it definitely, there's a line item in there that costs some money, but
Yeah.
I think you more than made up for it with just the contribution from
No,
county
thank you. I
funds.
just needed to hear all those.
It's been this has been a long,
That's a good
long
question.
process, but yeah, good question.
Clerk Rowe?
Okay, are you guys bidding phase 2, Washington County Parks and Rec?
Yeah, the plan is to work with, OHM will develop plans and we would bid that project out.
Yeah, because we probably need to tweak our agreement thing, because the agreement talks about the township bidding it, I think.
Yeah, our proposal does. Our proposal basically says that the township will, but I mean, basically our effort involved is going to be exactly the
No,
same.
I know, but I mean, because we're going to sign this agreement, so we probably need to just say that.
Modify that.
You
when we go to
modify
sign
that
it.
before we sign it, and we can just make a record, or
Yep.
make that in the motion when we,
Perfect. Yes, I agree. So that would be task 4 in that proposal will be modified to reflect the county will be doing the bidding.
Well, 3 is bidding, isn't it?
Task 4, I'm sorry.
you got to be in the right agreement.
I think I'm on the right agreement.
No, I didn't say you were.
Oh, okay. I could easily be not.
Yeah.
It says task 3
Final
is-
bidding is 3.
Under the deliverables section.
It's 3.
Are we
Oh,
supposed
no.
to design
but
it only?
Task 4 is the actual, if you go up.
Oh, with the
one,
description?
Task 4
Okay.
bidding.
Oh, you're right.
And the deliverable from Task 4 is
Gotcha.
recommendation of award letter.
So that's where we
Task
got
4
to
needs
change the
to be
language,
modified.
task 4.
Yep,
So it's modified task 4 language.
Yep. No effect on the fee.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I know this is a lot that, having to be done at once. But in the same aspect, I just wanted to make sure that I thank Washtenaw County Parks and Rec for their commitment into getting this project completed. Obviously, as it relates to the Grove Road extension, that part's needed to be done for a while. There's a lot of people that walk back and forth in some of that area, is so. So I'm glad to get this, look like we're moving forward to getting this done, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
On task 3, this is a MDOT road, so it's not township standards, it's MDOT standards, correct?
Grove?
Yeah,
No, it's county road.
I thought Grove was a MDOT road.
No, Washtenaw County Road Commission Road.
Okay,
Rosenville is a Wayne County road, that's why we're stopping short of that section, because it involves that. But Grove is Washtenaw County Road Commission jurisdiction, not MDOT. 100%.
I'm 110% sure.
I remember when we did the bike paths, it went through MDOT, but okay,
Because you had
standards.
tap money?
Tap money.
You had
Yeah,
federal
'cause we get-
tap money?
That's why.
Yeah, but it's still Washtenaw County Road Commission Road, you just had federal tap dollars.
Okay, I
It's
knew
an
the
alternative program to, yeah.
Because your documents refer to MDOT standards, your documents refer to township, not road commission, but
Right, well,
township.
when we bid a project, we follow MDOT
Standards,
standards for
gotcha.
bidding, so
Okay,
contractors
I'm
are
sorry,
familiar with
okay.
that type of work.
Yep.
Okay. So we're only paying for what's on here. Leroy, let that record be reflected.
Correct.
I mean, that's the bottom line, right? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Roy.
Then we have geotechnical services in relation to the Civic Center pond in the amount of $6,850.
Yeah, I'll stay put up here, but I'll let Elliot do the talking.
All right, good evening. Elliot Smith with OHM. So item 8 of the agenda, just for your knowledge and benefit. This is the pond that is on the northeast corner of the building. Well, you can see it if you're standing on North Huron Drive. So currently, there's 2 moderate concerns and issues with the pond. First issue, for background, is it's slowly leaking into the building, just fairly minor. And the second challenge is it's a little bit hard to maintain and winterize the pond. And you have to remove the fountains that reside in there over the winter. So this isn't a proposal for design, but it is the township's desire to rehabilitate the pond, put a berm and a kind of peninsula to help get the fountains out for the winter. So we're proposing a recommendation. We want to know what we're getting into, what the existing soils are underneath the pond. So this is just a proposal recommendation for the geotech services, working with G2, so we can help define the scope of the project. And there will be, for G2 scope, we're proposing to do 6 borings at depth of 20 feet, and an additional one of 12.5 feet, and use their recommendations to help define the scope a little bit more when we're doing our design work in the future.
Your question, so basically, the pond is the original state, and it's eroding back, and it needs to be, it's going underneath, the building, like Elliot stated, and we're looking to see what the conditions of the soil before we can come up with a recommendation to improvement. We haven't done anything to the pond, so we need to do something to it.
Right, the proposal's
You
clearly.
can't do that without, this is step 1 to that.
Yep, just trying to identify what kind of soils you have, if they're sandy, if they're clay soils, and then if it's good clay soil, you can use that as an impermeable barrier, and put that as a berm abutting the building so you don't have as many leaks.
As opposed to currently,
It's abutting and, oops,
and there's a
sorry.
liner underneath there.
Right, and it's not working as it once has.
Right.
Madam Chair, so this will probably more likely than not, a part of this will come back to the board. This part is basically the investigation, and then after that point, the design or redesign will come back to the board.
Yep, this is just
Okay.
preliminary investigation.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I was just curious, Elliot, if you know, I love your name, my daughter's named Elliot, and I just.
Karen let me know that.
I was wondering about how many hours do you think this work will cost? Ballpark it.
The design or the construction?
everything that's included in this lump sum payment that we're doing?
This lump sum payment is,
I know it's a lot of working pieces.
right, the $6,850, the majority of that's going to G2 Services for their services.
Right.
And then the remainder of that is going to go to coordination with the township, have an additional meeting and trying to figure out where we go from here once we have that recommendation from.
So that recommendation is going to be included in what we're paying for here? Like
Yes,
you're gonna
the G2's
okay.
recommendation.
Got it.
Along with an additional meeting with the township.
Perfect.
Yep.
The vast majority of the fee is the mobilization of the drill rig and the drill crew, which will probably be out here an entire day.
Thank you.
And G2 is the same company that's doing what's going on Grove Road? They're,
Soil.
yeah, the
And all
soil
that.
testers, yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had to step out. I heard you say, I thought I heard you say on the way to the bathroom that, it was leaking into the building, and I didn't know that we knew that, and I didn't know if this is going to show that. No one's ever been down there to see for sure.
Not for sure, very suspicious, and
So this
probably
testing is going to prove that?
This testing will allow us to understand the soils that are around in the pond, so they can be determined if we reuse them, like Elliot stated, help improve the scope of the design.
So we won't know from this whether or not it's actually.
No, these are strictly just soil borings.
Madam Chair.
Wait, may I, Michael?
I can answer that question regarding the water under the building. And yes, there is water. We've had water underneath this building for years.
Yeah.
And the plan, talking with Mr. Dudley when he returns, we'll be going down there to assess that sump pump that's supposed to be working, and we don't think it is.
But we don't know if it's coming from the pond. Because we're on high water table here.
Well, we have a high water towel, but I think there was a foundation crack on one side, and it's been years since we've been down there. So yeah, we think there is a leak from the pond, so. But yeah, but this is like, this back when Ed Wooten was here, that we
Right.
had these this thing started to happen more and more, and eventually it just stopped working after he retired, so it's never been addressed.
And I just asked the question because this is not going to solve that issue. We need to hire someone to go under there and investigate, and then that would be figuring out
This
what
is
to
part of
do.
the global answer to the issues that we're having with it.
It's just the pond, but not under the building.
If we can move the pond away from the building, we can then seal it if there's an issue with it.
But our goal in July was to
Can't
get
do
down there
anything
and pump that water out to see if we could find something out through our maintenance department. So.
Trustee Eldridge?
Yeah, Elliot, my question was going to be, as you do these borings, or Matt, could one of your recommendations be the elimination of that pond if it's causing structural damage to the building?
If that's something the township would desire, that's something we can explore.
Well, no, that's what I'm asking you, though. If we're paying this money, would that be one of your recommendations? If you find, could that be one of your recommendations, either to repair it or to eliminate it? I mean, are you going to give us alternatives, or, I mean,
We're just going to figure that out from this. This isn't going to deal with what's happening underneath the building.
Right.
This isn't a study of that.
We can give multiple recommendations. That wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
I think the scope that was described to us was the desire to build that berm, to push that pond further out, and all, for various reasons. To keep that water further away from the building is just a provision. So I think that's what we're really actually trying to assess.
I guess that's what I was trying to get to. If we're having to move the water away from the building with a berm, at some point that berm will begin to erode again, and we'll be back here again with the same issue. So I guess I'm asking, could that be one of the alternatives, to simply eliminate the pond?
Yes, it could.
Okay, thank you.
You're right, Stan.
Yeah,
Treasurer
this-
Doe?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just a little clarification. The purpose of the borings is to find out how much clay is there, because it's been a recommendation that we wouldn't put a liner back into that pond. And then they want to dig about 12 to 15 foot in the center, and that allows it, and if we dig that deep and we go and hit sand, then the pond is going to leak. If the clay is that 15-foot deep, then we can go in and dig the center, and the purpose of digging the center of the pond out is so we have a turnover, and it will hopefully eliminate all of the growth that we have, because the fountains will agitate. They'll put deeper fountains in it that draws from the bottom, and it turns the pond over, and we won't have the growth in it also.
Thank you.
I get, Madam, follow-up, I guess, to Stan's is like, we would have to know, we'd have to do these borings regardless of whatever, even if we decided we didn't want the pond anymore and eliminate it, we'd still need to know all the clay.
It would be recommended, yeah.
Kind of like step one and a lot of things, yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next item is for the abandonment of tax delinquent property. Treasurer Doe, is that yours? No?
It's something that we have to do every year.
Just a resolution that we do every year, and it's to speed up. I think we used to have a 3-year tax turnover. What this does is shorten the period of time on these abandoned properties so that we can go and foreclose on them quicker and get them resolved for the neighborhoods and stuff.
Yes.
I just have a question. So Karen, or I guess is a question for the clerk. The resolution is 2019, but then like the fine line item thing at the bottom, which like probably looks like it was just copied in, is 2018. Does that need to be changed?
That was a mistake, probably.
It looks like it's that whole clip that was like taken over. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's wrong.
The resolution.
Yep. Yeah, that's all wrong. Sorry about that. Yeah, it should say
Yeah.
19. Thank you. Good catch. In today's date.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Treasurer Dow. Number 10 is a resolution for purchase of tax foreclosed property for first right of refusal. We do this every year. The next item is equipment lease agreement with the American Center for Mobility for the use of Ypsilanti Township fire truck.
Yes, again, Madam Supervisor and Board, tonight I'm here with Jim Rollison, representative of Intertech.
American Center for Mobility and
Intertech.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry it took so long.
By way of remembrance, I think it was last month, the latter part of last month, and we were doing an inspection over at the AMC site. I was approached by Jim, the possibility of utilizing our fire truck and staff in their research and development of the impact it would have on driverless cars. So I told him I would bring this back to the board. And in that time, he's architected this lease agreement, and he's provided with the input of our staff, and he's provided these certificates for insurance. And we had the attorney review this lease agreement that you should have in your packets. And tonight, we're just asking you to approve it so we can move forward with this initiative. And he's here to answer any questions you might have.
This isn't for them to drive, it is for our firefighters to test the new technology. Is that?
Well, yeah, your drivers would drive your vehicles, and all it is to interact with our test equipment and infrastructure to advance the development of the technology. And it's mostly road loading, which would mean driving at some prescribed speed on our test environments with no interaction of, doing anything, that would cause any destruction.
How many hours do you think, or is it just as needed?
It would be as needed. As the technology moves forward, we're getting more and more requests for emergency vehicles, so police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, and things like that.
That's awesome. Mr. Winter, Chief Review.
Yeah, I think I did a letter on this, that I know the lease was for 3 years. I think I recommended maybe do it for a year because I think the numbers are going to change for the hourly rate for the firefighters and maybe even for the hourly rate of the usage of the fire truck.
We can either do it for the year or for the 3 years and put an amendment in there saying that, we would evaluate it every year and increase costs if they increased for you.
I'm sure they're going to increase because I know the contracts are going to increase the firefighters.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know exactly. I think that the insurance got revised, thank you. I don't know, there was a special rider for the cost of that vehicle that the chief is loaning ACM. I don't know, there's actual number.
They're demonstrating. They're not really loaning it, are they? They're just demonstrating.
They're going to be
Like, when I think of loaning, I think giving it to someone to
Right.
use.
Yeah, we would have we would never drive the vehicle. All we would utilize it for is you would come to the facility for a prescribed time, you'd interact with our testing, and then leave again.
Now, if there's a fire, we might have to leave.
Yep.
If there's a fire,
Yeah.
they
No, I
have to
understand.
leave the track and go to, right,
Okay.
Chief? If there's an emergency.
That is correct, if there's a
Yeah,
callback.
I just-
But this is designed to be like an overtime assignment.
Oh,
So
okay.
staff will come in off duty,
Okay.
and this
Right.
is not duty personnel we're using.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, we'd want to use it, in advance. We would give you plenty of notice. I mean, usually our testing, we know within, a minimum of 2 weeks in advance. So we would want to reserve some time, let you know when it was, and then.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes?
Chief, I just have one question about, no, go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to I'm going to ask some clarifying questions because I'm trying to figure out point 3. So who is the leasee?
It would be, Intertech is the operating partner for American Center for Mobility. You can imagine if you owned an apartment building, we would be the people that would handle all of the infrastructure, all of the repairs, collecting the rents and things. That's what we do at ACM.
Okay.
So the agreement would be through us, Intertech.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is, and the equipment, if I have it correct, is the fire truck equipment, which is our equipment, correct?
Yes, that would be township
Okay.
property.
Because point 3 says the leasee assumes and will bear the entire risk of cost to damage of the equipment and any and all costs whatsoever. No loss or damage to equipment or any part thereof will the leasee be responsible for under the terms of this lease agreement, which is in full effect and force until the expiration date stated above is reached. And I feel like there's some issues with both of those sentences. So basically, if for some reason, I'm not saying this, you always have to look for what could happen, right? So fire truck is on grounds, one of the driverless vehicles hit the fire truck. Who's going to bear that responsibility?
The moment it came through our gate and was on our property, we're liable and responsible for all damage to the vehicle.
Okay, all right, because,
They're carrying 2 certificates too on there.
okay, all right, okay, because the second sentence kind of makes it confusing. I don't know if something could be done with that. I'm not sure, Attorney Winters.
Well, I think the intent was to have I thought there was going to be a separate insurance policy that would guarantee that full replacement costs or full repair costs. The other insurance is more for liability, if someone gets injured or et cetera, et cetera. So I was looking for a third policy, I guess, so.
We can provide whatever you need. That's not a problem. Just as long as, we want to make sure that you're comfortable and you understand that we'll be responsible for it.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I just had a question about, I see here that it says the average overtime rate for the firefighters. I guess my question is, how the overtime's going to be allotted, and then what if my hourly rate as a firefighter, my overtime would be more than that? How are you going to make sure that it's fair and equitable and that they're being paid what we've committed to paying them for overtime?
This information we received from Karen Wallen in HR.
Well, so,
She took an average, I guess, between the top end and low end.
so I guess that's my question or concern. If I made more than $45.89 as my overtime rate as your, whatever, highest senior firefighter, and then I come in and I do this and I'm not being paid contractually my overtime rate, I'm being paid less than that. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
That could be a dispute. I would dispute that. If I was yeah, I'll take that overtime, but I need you to pay me my
They're
overtime.
going to have to be paid their overtime rate. This is going to have to be changed to be reflective probably of what they're being paid. Because we're not going to pick up that cost. It wouldn't be fair to us.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or does that make sense?
Good point.
Without trying to throw Karen under the bus, so
No,
to speak,
Just a,
when we drafted this, I talked about a figure that I thought would be all-inclusive.
Yeah.
But she wanted to do it in this way for it to be more equitable and more representative of
But
what the overtime
It should be
is for a firefighter.
it should be what people are working. We're not going to pay the overtime rate while they're out working for ACM.
Well, maybe I can help you with this.
That's what it should say, whatever the rate is, but the contract needs to be tweaked, obviously.
What we would do, if we needed your vehicle, we would send you a request with a scope of work for time that we would need the vehicle and the person. You can give us back an invoice saying whatever the rate is, and then, we would agree to it. I don't think you're ever going to be paying for anything that we're using.
If it could just be changed to say that, like, we're going to pay our firefighters the overtime rate that they deserve, not an average, because that's not what they're contractually obligated. Does that make sense? That's not what their contract says, so that's not what we.
got it.
And they agree.
Okay,
So that's a good point, and
so we
can
could make
change
that
it.
amendment before approving tonight?
Could be a lot of them.
You both?
Just approve it contingent upon attorney's review with the items that were
Brought forth.
brought up in the work session. How's that?
So far, it's the wage, and what was the other one? The year, length? Was that it?
Agreement.
Yeah, we only did it for 3 years just to encompass, so we wouldn't have to
Oh,
do
the
this.
insurance.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just one final question. If you need it for multiple days, the fire truck, where does it get stored back at station, or does it stay on ACM property if it needed for multiple days?
It would go back to your firehouse.
Okay,
Yeah, the plan is that we would bring staff in on an overtime basis. We would do this at least 48 hours in advance. So if we knew we were going to do multiple days, this would be set up well in advance. And then we would have the staff come to the station, take the truck over, and then bring it back in the evening.
okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, we would never call you and say, hey, we need the vehicle tomorrow.
Right,
It'll
right.
be at least, you'll get a long period of time.
All right, we're going to take a break because we have a meeting that starts at 7. Thank you. And that's pretty good.
I got my stuff. You guys want to come to my office? How's that? Sorry about that.
What's that? Who's that?
They need 3.
Brandon, you know.
Huh? Well, you could pass it pending the second agreement. It should be identical to the first agreement. Oh. Well, then the motion will be, the motion will still be on the one.
Good luck to you. Hey, good luck to you, man. And hang in there. I understand it might go bad and go good.